Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coast Star, the official newspaper of the Borough of Belmar, and the Asbury Park Press on December 13, 2023, and notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building. Take roll call. Councilwoman Donovan? Here. Councilwoman McKinney? Here. Mayor Beth Fusco?
Here.
Councilwoman Montanaro?
Here.
And Councilman Levis is absent.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our troops and their families and first responders.
And I'd also like to add longtime resident Mickey McMahon, who passed away. He was son of longtime Belmar employee Pat McMahon.
Okay, thank you. Okay, workshop. We are waiting for our redevelopment attorney to come, who should be here momentarily. But in the meantime, I wanted to discuss with the council we've been getting a few complaints about tents on the beach. And apparently our ordinance is not crystal clear as to what a tent is and what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. So we had a brief discussion, Borough Councilor and I and Mr. Payne, just to kind of, and the chief had actually sent us a copy of the Asbury Park ordinance. And in their ordinance, obviously they allow umbrellas, which is a single pole. But they also have a section which talks about coverings for babies, for infants. And they actually have the dimensions, in the ordinance, which I think is a smart thing to do. It's like, 36 to 39 inches high and a 4x4. Span, and we can discuss it, but we were thinking that might be a more appropriate modification to our ordinance, so that there's no confusion as to what is permitted and what is not permitted. Other than that, we would say that it's umbrellas with one post or this covering. We would not necessarily call it a baby covering because anybody could go under it. It's just that would be the dimension. A tent that's no longer than 39 inches high and 4x4. It seems like every day there's another variation of tent that's coming out. I know there are ones that have a single pole, and then they expand, and then they have pieces of fabric that go down to the sand, and they take up a huge spot. And then there are others that seem like they go into the ground and then they fly, with the wind. So, we're going to think about that, or we can discuss that, because I think we really need to come up with something that's more clear-cut, so we don't get into a situation where, at one end of the beach, somebody's saying, you got to take this down, and at another end of the beach, somebody's saying, yeah, that's okay. So, I'll be curious to see what you guys think.
I'm wondering if it's easier to say anything of a certain dimension or larger would be against the ordinance, because for instance, I'll tell you right now, I use a sport umbrella, which is the one that is a regular umbrella size, but you can tether it to the ground on the places where it touches the sand, which I like because I'm terrified of umbrellas becoming untethered and like harpooning somebody. I think that's an important consideration here. Plus, skin cancer is to consider. I want people to be able to fit under their umbrellas and not get sunburned.
And so is our current ordinance against the 10 by 10 tent right now? People, what does our current ordinance say that we are not supposed to have? Like the 10 by 10 pop-up tents?
Let me pull it up.
Because I'm unsure of what exactly. I know, I'm pretty sure we can't have those,
Usually you need a permit for those, but I'll give you the exact word. It says, no tents, camping tents, or canopies are permitted on the beachfront from Memorial Day weekend to Monday of Labor Day, except in conjunction with an authorized beach party permit. And then it says, the only permitted shade devices on the beachfront are umbrellas with one central shaft or stanchion supporting the umbrella canopy in an upright position, devices designed or used to shade known as beach pop-up tents or sun shelters, which are small and open on one side.
Or permitted.
And then this also says the police department is authorized and directed to remove any tent which is creating a hazard or disturbance to others.
And I think the goal is to just bring some certainty to the ordinance. So, you know, you need to think about trying to make it as clear as possible what is permitted and what is not permitted. So, you know, think about that. We can talk about it, you know, at the next meeting, or we can, you know, you could send comments to April with your thoughts. But again, it's just a certainty aspect of it. We don't want people being told to take down something, you know, on 4th Avenue, and then the same tent is on, you know, 11th, and they're allowed to have it. So,
Mayor,
give it a thought.
I'm wondering if we could talk to Harry Horson and see what exactly is, you know, what would be interfering with their visual of the ocean. I think that's the main concern for all of these tents to begin with, is to make sure that the water safety and our lifeguards can see what's happening on the beach and in the ocean.
We can do that, but I think it's less of a problem for the lifeguards because, as you know, they generally up in the front and they have an area cordoned off around them where people can't sit. I think originally the whole thing was just people taking up an inordinate amount of space on the beach, you know, and it's, you know, like they're going camping. So, you know, you'll see a huge tent and then, you know, another tent, and now, you know, and now you get to the beach and there's a 20 by 20 area that has been already cordoned off. So, I mean, I think that was the gist behind the original ordinance.
Right.
So, you know, I think it's, again, I don't have any preference either way. It's just I think we need to give beachgoers, you know, a clear idea of what's permitted and what's not permitted. So let's just, you know, think about that, and you know, we can work on, you know, coming up with something that's much clearer than we have now. One other, you know, public service announcement that I would like to make. I've noticed driving through the streets that there's a lot of debris left on the streets, and it's basically from individuals who, you know, taking care of their yards, they're cutting branches, you know, the bushes and whatnot, and they put it out on the curb. And as we all know, we only have one pickup right now for brush. It's the first, what, Monday of the month, Billy? Yes. The first Monday of the month. So if you put it on, you know, on Wednesday after the first Monday, it stays there for the entire month until the next month. And, you know, I've seen that on my own block. And what happens is it decays, and of course if it rains, it then just, you know, clogs up the sewers and all that stuff. So I would ask people, if you're cleaning up your yard and you have debris, just hold it in your yard until the first Monday of the month. Now, having said that, I think we're going to explore, and we haven't talked to Billy yet about this, we're going to explore possibly having an additional pickup during the month, because especially during the summer, you know, things tend to grow pretty quickly, and we all have a certain amount of time, and we do our landscaping and gardening when we can. So, you know, it may behoove us to add an additional day. But we need to discuss that and what the ramifications of that is. The other thing is, you know, residents need to know we also have a recycling center that's open like 7 days a week where you can bring brush and dump it off. So, you know, if you really don't want it sitting in your yard and you want to get rid of it, you know, you can put it in your car, put it in a bag, and bring it to the center. You can't put the bag in the container, but you can empty it into the container and get rid of your brush at any time. Okay, so I would urge people to do that, because it's getting to be kind of a problem. And, we haven't had a lot of rain, but if we do have a lot of rain, that's gonna wind up, clogging up the sewers, which is just gonna make more work for DPW, because they need to go around and then unclog them. Okay, so, just pass the word around, keep it in the yard for a little bit, and then, or you can mulch it, and try to reuse it as organic material. But try not to put it out in the street. Okay?
One other thing, at the last meeting, we talked about Silver Lake. I know we just had the presentation by our engineer. And I volunteered to do a presentation what the Silver Lake Committee has been working on. But we do have our development attorneys here. They prepared a presentation. I anticipate a lot of questions and comments. So unless there is overwhelming feeling otherwise, I would vote that I postpone this particular one until the next meeting. Does that make sense?
That's fine with me.
Okay. If anyone has questions ahead of that, please reach out. I'm happy to help and talk your ear off. So.
Okay, we now have our attorney here, who is going to give us a little brief update on where we started with our redevelopment process. Do we have the what I'm going to say before we start, we've done this once before. We're going to have the presentation. We will, discuss things amongst the council, and with the council's approval, I would like to open it up then to questions while we have Mr. Baumann here. Questions about redevelopment, questions about affordable housing, questions about the Belmar Housing Authority and the proposal that we made to them. So I would like to use that time to do that while he's here. On condition that, or basically saying that, ask your questions at that point on those topics. Because at the end of the evening, when we have the open discussion, I will take comments, but I will not answer questions about redevelopment, affordable housing, or the Belmar Housing Authority, because you have the opportunity to do that, after we complete this session. So just be aware of that, and we'll hear from.
It's got
Mr.
HDMI.
Baumann.
Yeah.
You can sit if you want.
No.
You want to sit?
I'll stand. Okay.
We're going to just move down here.
So while we're getting that set up, hello again. Nice to see you all. My name is Joe Baumann. I'm the chairman of the Madam Scotland Endowment. We're your special counsel on redevelopment and housing matters. You may recall that maybe a month and a half ago, we had a presentation. We took some time to go through the state of the law on affordable housing in New Jersey and as it relates to Belmar in particular. Tonight, what we hope to do is to frame for you the challenges that we encountered or met as we began the process of trying to satisfy the borough's affordable housing obligations. That challenge, those challenges, we started around the end of 22, early in 23, and then since we get that up there, that's okay. We'll walk you through it. And then the goal will be to, tonight, work our way through what we're up against, why we made the decision to file the DJ action. And then at a subsequent meeting, we're going to then attempt to start bringing up to speed on where we are with what's called the interveners. So we have 4 interveners that we've been simultaneously negotiating with through this process. And in every one of those cases, there's also the judge and the special master. You'll recall from our last presentation. What's happening?
He had to go get an adapter. So.
Oh, okay. So I'll remind you about the affordable housing. So in New Jersey, the courts have concluded that there's an obligation, a constitutional, New Jersey constitutional obligation for municipalities to provide affordable housing throughout the state. And over the years, there's been a number of challenges to that effort, and legislation has been passed and repassed and amended across the way through several rounds of obligations. So we're coming up on what's called round 4. We've been through round 1, round 2, round 3, which was in the last 10 years, and starting next year will be round 4. And that's the new legislation you've probably heard about. That would take a whole other session. We can certainly do that later on, but starting at the end of this year into next year, we're going to start talking about round 4.
Marshall's getting the stuff. I had something else.
Do you want to try and make a motion? Is that what it was?
Sure.
Yeah, no, no, no.
Let's see if this one works. It worked in the test.
Wait, before you. Wait a minute.
I wish I had some jokes or something.
Yeah.
I'm not very funny, my wife would tell you that. I think I'm funny, by the way.
Where did he go?
I think
No,
you
I
might
can't
be.
say that.
She just needs an adapter. She just needs an adapter.
You don't have the other. Hold on, let me put it in.
You should.
Yeah. In the inside?
Same way.
Since we're still waiting, is this the workshop portion of this meeting still? Because
Yes,
I don't see
this is the
this
workshop.
discussion on the agenda.
What's that?
Because I don't see this discussion listed on the agenda.
Yeah, there was a little confusion. It was originally on the agenda, and then late yesterday afternoon, we discovered that our wires were crossed, and we thought it was gonna be tonight, and Mr. Baumann and his firm thought it was gonna be at the next meeting, so we had it taken off the agenda, but then I asked Mr. Baumann to show up to answer any questions, and then he took it upon himself and his staff to come up with a PowerPoint presentation.
Right.
So that's the explanation of why it's not in the workshop. But
Yeah.
there's no requirement that all of the workshop items be put on the agenda.
But I just didn't know if this is still, so you're
This is the
saying this is
workshop.
still the workshop? I
Right.
thought Oprah requires things to be on the agenda.
You can add stuff.
Okay.
All right, so, next thing. All right, so I'm going to ask you to flash back to about December of 2022, when we first became involved in what was happening in Belmar. So at that time, as you can see, Belmar was not compliant in its affordable housing obligation, meaning it hadn't gone through any of the steps necessary to become compliant and to avoid builder's remedy lawsuits. So we were non-compliant as of December 2022. By that point, we had done 6 projects with about 170 units had been developed from 2011 till 2023, with only 12 affordable housing units in them. That's important because arguably we left on the table an opportunity to build about another 14 or so affordable housing units. So as of the 2018, we had 2,004 new construction units under the Jacobs design. So a court decision was passed in 2018 that said, identify per municipality how many affordable housing units they make payment to build. Belmar in that decision, the Jacobs decision and the calculations that apply to every town, you can look up any town and find it, we had an obligation of 204. Over the period of time as described up there, we built 12 of the 170, but if we had applied 15%, which is sort of the number that you try and shoot for, we would have actually been able to build 26. So we arguably missed an opportunity to at least chip away at our 2004 obligation by building 14 affordable housing into the units that were constructed during that time. Problem number one. Problem number two, the borough was facing the possibility of a builder's remedy lawsuit. We know that because when we first arrived, there were 4 developers that had been in discussions with the developer for doing projects. Those are the ones that you're familiar with. That's Mark Bill, as you enter by the northern part of the city, by the borough, the Rapetti, Sackman, and then there's a smaller project. So those discussions have been happening. They're in the process. They're moving along as of 2022. We also know that the borough was sort of aware, every municipality was, it's not a surprise. Next slide. And I think that you can't really see this. So well, this will be on the website, you can read it. But at the time, the borough attorney is looking for someone to give them a report on how to start addressing this. And he says things like, the borough is woefully deficient in its affordable housing obligations. We've discussed this matter briefly with the mayor, blah, blah, blah. We really need to get busy addressing affordable housing. So there are a number of opportunities along the way where up until 2022, we, along with everyone else, knew that there was this obligation. We knew we were deficient. We knew we hadn't protected ourselves against builder's remedy lawsuits. And we knew that there were 4 developers that were in discussion with projects. Next slide. Those 4 projects were Mark built. Again, who was proposing 6 stories, 131 units. Sackman, 75 rating, which was proposing 3.5 stories, 45 units. Rapetti Russo Development, which is over by the highway, 5 stories, 250 units. All of those proposals had no affordable housing in them. So the discussions that were occurring, again, when we first got involved, was there's 4 projects on the deck. None of them are going to have affordable housing. We have an unmet need of 204. We've ignored it for at least the last 10 years or before that, and we haven't been meeting our obligations. The challenge now, faced with those facts, is what do we need to do? We also have a couple of other things that are happening at the time. There's 3 redevelopment agreements that also have payments in lieu of taxes, pilots in them, but they don't have affordable housing in them. So there's 3 projects that have been executed, redevelopment agreements, again, when we show up on the scene. 3 redevelopment agreements already executed, all with pilots, payments in lieu of taxes, no affordable housing. Typically, if you're going to do a pilot, you can expect to have some affordable housing in the project to offset the costs. Then we also have an existing ordinance, which is adopted in 2022, that increases the height for the Rapetti from 3.5 stories to 5. That's on the books. And we have a development fee ordinance. So the development fee ordinance is an ordinance by which you collect money to help offset affordable housing over time. We have one on the books, but it's also deficient under the current rules and regulations. Lastly, and I know a lot of people have read the Facebooks, I'm aware of this, so we're going to talk about it. We have a Belmar Housing Authority that has 24 senior affordable housing units, but they don't count. Why don't they count? They don't count towards our numbers because the preference is only to Belmar residents. And because it's not to a region, those 24 units don't count towards our 204. So we have the housing authority that's being in affordable housing, but because of the rules and regulations associated with it, we can't count those. So those are 24 affordable housing units that are not going to be in our column of meeting our obligation because of the preference for Belmar. Now, I absolutely understand the preference. Every municipality prefers to do it that way, but the price of that preference is we can't count those units. So what is the first thing the mayor does? He has us begin reviewing the existing redevelopment agreements. The mayor and the council, the entire team, the town attorney, they say go back and look up the existing redevelopment agreements, the existing redevelopment projects, and tell us what you think. So immediately we conclude that those 3 pilot agreements, one of which is already built, by the way, none of those, all those have pilots, but the pilots weren't properly authorized. Meaning that there's a process. If you want to do a pilot, you have to file an application. You have to introduce an ordinance. You have to have a public hearing. You have to adopt an ordinance. It was written into the agreements without going through any of the steps associated with it. So it's ultra virus, unenforceable. It's illegal. We negotiate with the redevelopers. They're pretty agreeable, and we remove all the pilots from those 3 transactions, so they no longer have pilots. But they still don't have affordable housing. And there was no way we could impose it upon them because they already had their approvals. Next one. The existing redevelopment agreements with Eastport and Newman, we amend the agreements to take out the tax exemption, and then we get the Second Pond project to agree that they'll forego the pilot, so we don't have to fight about it. To their credit, each one of them didn't put up a fight. They certainly could have, if they wanted to. They could have tried to make the case that they relied upon an agreement, illegal or otherwise. But they didn't. They all came along, they removed the pilots, so there's no pilots in those transactions any longer. The council also then immediately rescinds the 2022 amendment, the one that allowed the height to go from 2.5 to 5. That has pluses and minuses. One, that developer now knows, I can't do the height I want. So that's the negative in the sense that even more likely to file a builder's remedy lawsuit. But on the other hand, it also gives us, what we believe puts us in the driver's seat, at least at some level. The council then also, that development fee ordinance, we redo it, we re-adopt it, and now we do have a uniform way to collect fees that we can put into our affordable housing trust fund to do renovations or rehabs or other less large, less complicated, less impactful, but still affordable units throughout the borough. That was a pretty critical step. Next. And then we do this. We file a declaratory judgment. So you may say, why don't you just wait for the developers to come? They're never coming. They were never going to file the builder's remedy lawsuit. You picked the fight. You went on the offensive. Why would you just remain on the defense and see if they came? And if they came, then you deal with it when they came. And if they didn't come, we win because there's never a project. But that was never going to happen. I think today, it might have been Brielle or something, they just filed it. All right, so today, Brielle got a builder's remedy lawsuit filed. These developers were not going to sit on their rights and let the clock run out while we refused to engage on their development projects. They were absolutely coming with builder's remedy lawsuits. They said it to us in conversations. They had well-heeled, skilled lawyers. We've seen it up and down the state. There was no way that there wasn't coming for builder's remedy lawsuits. So you go on the offensive or you go on the defensive. This governing body decides we're not going on the defense. We're not going to wait till they come and deal with them in their stadium. We're going to fight the fight on the home turf. We're going to file a DJ action, and we're going to, and we know they're going to come because they're going to intervene. But now it's going to be a whole new set of rules. Now we're filing the lawsuit. Now there's a special master involved, there's a court, and we are demonstrating to the fair share housing advocates and the court and the special master that even though we've ignored our obligations for decades, they're not going to do it anymore. We're engaging, we're committing, we understand we have this constitutional obligation. The credit card bill that we thought we weren't going to pay, it's due, and we're going to start trying to pay it. So we start engaging with the redevelopers, and we do that by filing a declaratory judgment action. We did something like this in another town. We missed getting the DJ action by a week. They had a builder's remedy and beat us to the punch. We knew that every day that went by was another day that they could possibly file the builder's remedy lawsuit by any 4 of these developers who have been, again, as I described to you, long before any of us showed up on the scene, were engaged in proposing developments to the borough, including, for example, the Repetti project, where the law was being amended to allow them to do the larger project. So people need to put this impossible to prove a negative, but put it out of your head that there was never going to be a builder's remedy lawsuit. There were 4 builder's remedy lawsuits coming, and we're going to be having 4 fights if we didn't take them on. So we do the declaratory judgment action. What does that do? Well, first place, it stops against the builder's remedy lawsuit, right? So, as I just described. But the second thing, which sort of goes unnoticed, is builders aren't the only ones that sue towns to meet their obligations. The Fair Share Housing advocate also sues towns regularly. And so there's no doubt that the first time we proposed a redevelopment agreement for one of these redevelopers that didn't have affordable housing, we were going to see affordable housing lawsuit. It happened in South Towns River when I was involved, and along the way, that was a town where we thought we had more than enough affordable housing. It's not a wealthy town. They filed it, and they had to deal with it. So it's not just the builder's remedies; it's also the fair share. And they have, as if you haven't seen it, they have every one of these short towns on their radar. They're aware that a lot of obligations are not being met. They have one job and one job only: maximize affordable housing. This also allowed us to sort of stick all the developers in the lawsuit at the same time. It's frustrating for the public, I get it, to not be in the weeds on those 4 negotiations, but you have to understand that with every developer, the facts are different, the negotiation is different. We might be willing to do something for one that we're not prepared to do with the other. So by necessity, we made a strategic decision that if we were either selling all of them or we weren't going to settle any of them. That's been our mantra with the special master, with the court, and with every single individual redeveloper. They didn't like it because some of them are pretty close to being done. Others are further away, and the ones that are closer don't like waiting for the other ones. But we didn't want to set a precedent where the lowest common denominator becomes now the bar. So we give this developer X units or X height per acre. That now becomes the floor, and everyone else wants that or more. So we're doing simultaneous negotiations. Those negotiations are not just with the developer; it's also with this special man who's our, sort of, for better word, the honest broker. His job is to try and drag us all together to a solution. And then a judge, who every once in a while drags us to court and says, "Where are you at? What's taking so long? I'm getting tired of this. This has to happen." So we have the judge to deal with, we have the special master, and we have each individual redeveloper with their lawyers, with their financial advisors, with their planners. That's why it's taken so long. But it's also why, as I stand here today, we're not going to describe those, but hopefully in July, when we get there, we're close enough that we're going to walk you through all of it. It's going to feel like a lot. It's going to feel like a lot. I'm telling you now, it's going to feel like a lot. It's going to feel like a lot because we made a conscious decision again to get them all done all at the same time, for better or for worse, negotiating with each one individually. One of the things that happened through the declaratory judgment, this is really important, is there's something called a vacant land adjustment. So the 204 units that you saw in the beginning of the presentation, one of the things we're working with the special master and the affordable housing advocates is we don't have a lot of vacant land. We have some. We have more than many other short communities because we have these parking lots and these properties, but we don't have a lot. So we've been simultaneously negotiating for a vacant land adjustment. An adjustment says, okay, how many units could you reasonably develop in Belmar, given the amount of land you have? We think that's going to land around 96. We think we've gotten 210 down to 96. It's not done. It's close. I'm sort of revealing maybe a little more than I would have liked, but Mayor insisted. But we're making real headway. From 204 to 96. Now, remember, as I said before, 24 Bayonne Housing Authority units don't count, right? Don't count. So, Mark Built, we're gonna be coming to you with a presentation about Mark Built. That's going to be a project that's got some condominiums, a lot of condominiums, and some affordable rentals. We've been working really hard to get that project lower. Sockman, 75 rating. This has been the toughest one, I'd say, for all of us because it's the one that's on the eastern side of Main Street, so it's closest to the neighborhood, but it's also a smaller one, and it's been very challenging. So by the way, all are gonna have affordable housing, of course. That project, if I were to tip my hand a little bit, maybe the one we're least satisfied with, I think. And then the Repeti Russo project, there we're shooting for lower, right, and less units, just big, not a lot of units. There's going to be there's a lot to go into that negotiation, and it's not just myself and the lawyers. We also have financial advisors who are analyzing the economics of every transaction for us, and they're analyzing it from a couple of different perspectives. First, how much affordable housing can this developer put into the project? And how much can we push them? Do they or do they not need a pilot? It's part of the discussion when you do affordable housing. Can we reduce the site? What's the construction cost? So every one of the settlements will also come for you with an analysis that shows us whether or not the project pencils out for them, because it's all about the math. So we're negotiating to a result where they can build it, because they won't sign on, and the special master and the judge won't agree unless it's reasonable probable they'll build these units. The goal is to build the affordable housing units. And we're also looking for them to tell us what's the fiscal impact. So there's also going to be tied to every one of these projects the fiscal impact analysis that says the rateable of this project is going to be X, expected to be X based upon the taxes, or if there's a pilot based upon a pilot. And the costs associated with that is going to be Y, school children being the largest expense. Whether there's additional municipal expenses, it's typically not a lot of additional municipal, but school for sure. And will we, with each one of these projects, get more in revenues, and we're going to roll out expenses, and we're expecting the answer to be in all three of those cases, yes. We're expecting the answers to be there'll be more ratables coming in off of those projects than the expenses associated with those projects, even if there's a pilot involved. And the pilots are also in negotiation about where it should be, the amount and all that. And then through that process, we're going to make a public presentation at the council. We're going to sit with you, we're going to show you as best we can, project by project. This is what they asked for, this is what it looked like. This is where we ended up. 4 times. This is where they asked for, this is what they wanted, this is where we ended up. And we're going to show you the fiscal impact report and the numbers. And we're going to do that project by project. And it'll be part of this global settlement that we're describing for you. And then, the hard part, we got to implement all that. Every one of those projects is going to have perhaps an amendment to the redevelopment plan, or perhaps a redevelopment agreement. And then eventually everyone ends up at the planning board. So there's a lot to be done. By the way, I should also tell you that a big part of our negotiation has been, what does it look like? Right? So we've been really involved. One of the benefits of this process is, how does it look like? So the council, they've been sending us pictures. I like this project. I found this on the internet. Try this. The mayor, the professionals, our planner, all trying to get to a project that you'll find to be pleasing. You'll find that it produces more in revenues than costs and expenses. You'll find that it meets your affordable housing obligation. Again, 4 projects, it's going to feel like a lot. But it's all not happening tomorrow either. Every one of these developers needs to then go get the money, borrow the loan, trying to take out the loan, go to the planning board, they got to get through our process. And so this, once we're settled, this is something that doesn't happen. It has 5 or 6 years. It happens, it doesn't all show up at the same time. It's going to happen over a long period of time. But again, I come back to what I started with. At some point in time, if you refuse to pay your credit card bill, it doesn't go away. If you refuse to meet your obligations, they don't disappear. You can't wait that out. You can't hope for another day. Tried that, failed, right? For better or for worse, and I know this is a team that was not necessarily big on development. I hear from all the time, the entire team. But there's a reality check at some point for the government, for the community. We have an obligation. We have to meet our obligation. We have to do it as best we can, having the least impact as we can on the town. But we don't get to get out of the obligation. We don't get to wait until they file lawsuits or someone else files lawsuits. We take it, we decided collectively, and we recommended it. So on us, we went on the offensive. We said, we're going to meet this obligation, but we're going to do it on our terms. And that's why we felt the DJ action. That's where we sit today. And again, we're happy to field some questions. So the other next two, last time, we did put up some FAQs on the website. If there's more, we'll add more. We had that 4924 update, we'll do this update. We're doing our best to keep you informed every step of the way within the confines of the negotiations that I just described to you and the inherent complication of negotiating 4 different entities to the court and the special master, trying to bring all 3 of these trains to the same train station at the same time in a thoughtful and careful way, so that when we show you each of the projects, we're showing you everything that we know about the projects and everything we can best understand about the products, again, from the economics to the affordable housing units. By the way, we're also pushing, in some certain cases, to, instead of doing an affordable housing unit, we're looking for cash to put into our affordable housing trust fund, which we may be able to use to perhaps, we're not sure yet, but make some improvements to the Belmar Housing Authority building, which is in desperate need of repair. Right, so we're also not only looking for units, but in certain cases we're saying, well, that the judge and the fair share doesn't love these options, but they have agreed with us on occasion to, yeah, okay, we'll let them give you some cash or some other obligation. You put that in the bank, you can use it as cash to do things like convert houses like someone mentioned ADU, so maybe would accept cash to turn an ADU into an affordable housing unit, right? An alternative dwelling unit. Those would be options. So we also wanted to make sure that we came out of this with some money to help us do other things throughout the town. So we think when we're done, we're going to satisfy that 96. I know we did approach, at our urging, our firm's urging, we approached the Belmar Housing Authority. We asked them to consider removing the Belmar borough preference. We did it because we thought picking up those affordable 24 affordable housing units, which, by the way, if you think of that as a project, 24 would be 15% of a bigger project, right? Going back to the 12 we didn't build, those 14 that we didn't build is roughly a 100-unit project that now we have to build to absorb the 15 because it's only 15%. You got to do all the markets to pay for it. So it's a tough pill to swallow to say no longer have a preference only for Belmar and do it regional, but the reward is pretty significant. It's 24 affordable housing units counting towards your obligation. Without that, the fair share and the court has said to us, look, if you're not going to do that, then you have to figure out a way to do your own standalone affordable housing project. They said to us, find some borough land. Oh, I see you have a parking lot over here you're not using. Write an affordable housing developer a check. Land, borrow money, give an affordable housing developer a check, and they'll build a standalone affordable housing. That's what they've been pushing back when we said, if we don't do this. I don't know that's where we'll end up, but that might be one of the prices to pay. Alternatively, you got to find 24 units somewhere. So again, hard pill to swallow. It's not within the mayor or council's purview to decide what they do or don't do. But I'm explaining to you why we recommended they ask, and they asked. That'll be, again, a Belmar Housing Authority decision, but not getting the benefit of 24 affordable housing units in your calculation is a pretty tough pill to swallow when you have them in your municipality. Questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Yes, sir.
So, you really haven't given us any details on all these negotiations that are going on. And I understand you don't talk about it, but you're going to come to some sort of conclusion and agreement. And in there's going to be some number of total units and some number of affordable housing. And the judge is going to sign off on that. Once that's done, what kind of input do the townspeople have in, we don't want that many units there, or we don't want this many units? Once the judge signs off on it, is it a done deal?
We're signing off on it first.
Once the judge signs off on it, is it a done deal?
Yes.
Okay, now.
But after we sign off on it.
Well, so far you're doing all the negotiating. I don't see anybody in this room having any input in that negotiating.
No.
You're doing it.
Well, no. Your elected officials are. That's how the work works, right? You elect, I mean, I don't know, but I've never seen a negotiation where the public joins in.
That's not, so typically things are presented and the townspeople provide some opinions. input, sir, but from what you're saying,
No,
once the judge signs off on it, it's a done deal.
no, but you're skipping my first step, which is we're gonna present it to you, and then we're gonna sign off on it first. Then, if it passes, at that meeting, I'm sure the public is gonna say exactly what you said. Too many units,
Room units,
too
parking,
high,
not
hate
enough,
pilots.
no contribution
Yes.
to the infrastructure, you know,
No,
all the things.
all those things are gonna be
All
said.
the things that we didn't want before, we're just sort of getting.
But now you're getting affordable housing, you meet your obligation, it was coming anyway. That's the hard part to wrap your mind around.
That's true, but we're also getting all this other development that we didn't want.
But it's a price you pay for doing development, for meeting your affordable
Well, it's
housing.
one, like you said, it's one way of solving the problem.
There's no other way. What other way is there?
You said we could build a separate affordable housing units.
105, where's that going?
Well, that's.
There's no land.
Well,
That's the
that's your conclusion, okay? I don't, I'm not saying that I have a better solution. I'm just saying that it's gonna be a done deal, and we're gonna look and say, well, I thought we didn't want all these units. We just went through, the Repetti thing is so big, nobody wants this place to look like Long Range, and in the end, it's gonna be a done deal.
It's gonna be smaller. It's gonna be smaller. It's gonna have less units. It's not gonna, there was no way in the world it wasn't gonna happen at all, if that's what you think. It was what's gonna happen. So all we can do is make it better. And that's what we try to do. There will be as many as people as audience, there'll be that many people that disagree with some component of whatever we did, guaranteed. Yes, yes, sir.
So, basically,
Sorry, if I could just interrupt anyone that's gonna speak, if you could come up to the microphone and then state your name and address also, thank you.
Jim DiOrio, 217 8th Avenue. Mr. Baumann, you basically told us we're at this point because previous administrations played defense and they didn't take initiative. Would that be a fair statement?
I want to be really careful not to criticize. All I know is, for whatever reason, I'm not going to Monday morning quarterback. Why what happened or didn't happen, I don't know. But we didn't meet our obligation. We had opportunities to do it, and we didn't. And so if we had, we wouldn't be now facing the possibility of building.
Right, but as a resident, I think we all need to know why we're at this point now, okay? A lot of rumors, innuendos, and I heard a rumor from somebody, the other attorney in the prior administration said, don't worry about it. I mean, we still haven't gotten an answer as a residents in this town of how we got here. We don't want to be here, and I understand the law. It's a Supreme Court ruling from the state. We have no way around it. But we're in a bad spot right now. Our Affordable Housing Trust Fund is next to nothing when I know there's towns in this state that have $1 million in it because they were proactive. And I think Manasquan, which is down the road, has $600,000. I think we have 30. And I think a lot of people are mad that we got to where we got to, and we feel we're backed into a corner. And I know Mr. Kramer here has raised on numerous occasions the fact that we couldn't put money in the trust fund because we weren't compliant. So development on 10th Avenue, they didn't have to contribute to the trust fund. 9th Avenue and private residents. My neighbor just tore down his house and he called me up and he said, I just got hit with an $11,000 trust fund fee. Where did that come from? Because we hadn't done it before. But I think somebody needs to tell the residents why we got to where we are now.
I mean, only I can tell you is what I told you so far. I showed you a letter, at least one letter, where everyone knew what was going on and decisions were made. None of us were here, so who knows? But I'm more about looking forward. Like, you gotta be sure, figure it out, but let's solve the problem. Like,
Have we looked
that's
at?
what we're trying to do.
Yeah, you touched on looking at some borough-owned property. Has anyone looked at the gas station we own on Main Street?
Yeah. There's two problems with borough-owned property. One is you have to give it away because it's 100% Two is you often have to also write a check. Because a standalone affordable housing, we typically can't afford to build itself, even with the benefit of tax credits. And those are really most of the time large projects. So you have to give them land, and you have to write a check. And then you have to promise by ordinance that if that's not enough money, when the time comes and they still need more money, you're gonna write another check. So you don't just get to write them a check, you also have to promise to pay to the courts. And if that check's not enough, more checks will come for that project. So standalone projects happen all the time. They're usually sort of on the bigger scale. We don't have, like we look at the possibility of one here. It's just a lot of here. It's very small. We couldn't get a lot of units. We have to give the loan. We have to write a check.
But when you do the math, you're looking at 96 units of affordable housing versus you have to build over 500 to get to the 96. And I think the 500 is what everyone in this room doesn't want. I mean,
There's not a lot of places for 96. There's just not. These will hold 5 or 6 or 7. We just don't have that much rural land.
okay.
To just physically put it on there and build it.
Okay, thank you very much.
And again, I want to go back to these projects, while they're big, fiscal impact studies are going to show that there'll be more vehicles coming off them, even if there's a pilot in their option. So it'll be a net positive for the bottom line of the borough. Doesn't take away from the fact that there's going to be now all these units.
Well, yeah, there'll be more ratables, but our infrastructure, it is going to go right to the infrastructure.
And I think we said it on the FAQ, right? The fact is, the court has said, and it's clear, they don't care.
Right.
They don't care what happens to your school, they don't care what happens to your sewer, they don't care what happens to your water. That's your problem. Do the and so you can't, like, you can't take this into consideration, work doesn't care. The law doesn't care.
Thank you.
Mark Presto, 13th Avenue in Belmar. I have a question on the Belmar Housing Authority. I think there's 50 units there.
Just
50, but only 24 would qualify. And is there a waiting list for there?
No, right? Andres?
There is
There's one.
Okay, so then my follow-up question would be, if it were open to other counties, would the waiting list be disrupted, or would they remain in line?
It just goes to the bottom, I'll check. Great question.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
John Walsh, Jr., B Street. You don't have to tell me who did it. They knew what was going on when that lawyer wrote the letter to them that they were non-compliant. But the other thing is about the Belmar Housing Authority. Now, I'm not against seniors. My wife's a social worker. But the mayor and the council is supposed to look out for all the people in Belmar. And if that's for the greater good of Belmar, then that should be included. That's just my opinion, you know.
I'm with you. Like the rules.
It's nothing against.
I'm with you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we'll be,
Kyle Rizzatello, 14th Avenue. Affordable housing, isn't it true that we do not have to supply parking to them?
so,
And if we don't have to supply parking, Belmar is a very crowded town with a lot of vehicles. Where do you think these people are gonna park? The
so,
ones that don't have assigned parking?
so I think our plan doesn't, our plan doesn't require parking, but we don't accept that, neither does the affordable housing. We think affordable housing people need parking. So we're accounting.
So they will have assigned parking?
Not an apartment building.
So if they're not,
Obviously assigned parking.
so if they're not gonna have assigned parking, where do you think all these people are gonna park?
Well, there's gonna be parking, every project's parking, that's parking.
Do you ever
Every
ride
project
around,
has
do you ever
parking.
ride around Belmar in the summertime?
No, I'm saying.
You can't find a place to park.
No, I know,
And I live
that's
here.
why the project's gonna have parking in them. There'll be parking in the projects.
Even
It's just
for,
not a sign.
even for the affordable housing.
Whoever lives there, don't treat them any differently than a person that has a market rate. Everyone gets, everyone gets.
So if they get into just a regular apartment or affordable housing apartment, either or.
Everyone gets treated the
they
same.
will have
There's
some
no affordable housing, people park here, not affordable, that's not how it works. It's peppered throughout the building, it's inclusive, it's not designed to isolate. So the parking will be for everybody that lives in that community. There's not gonna be any distinguishing between affordable housing and the parking in the park. It's not happening. None of us would allow that to happen. The mayor and council would never let that happen. Affordable housing would never let that happen. It's just counter to what affordable housing is supposed to be. It's supposed to be inclusive in the community, built into the units, same finishes as everybody else. Don't really know the difference when you walk into it. You're just part of the community like everybody else.
It's gonna be interesting with all these buildings going up and the lack of parking available.
Well, yeah.
That's what's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, with party parking in the units. We'll debate later whether there's enough or not. Every project has to be parking in. It's not. No, not that. No, no.
Charity Scordato, Second Avenue. Is there any reason why all 50 units in the Belmar Housing Authority can't be made into low cost and therefore reduce the necessary,
Well, I think so it's like, why can't we take that apartment building over there and make it all affordable housing? You know,
well, why not? We control the
if
units.
people are living there, what are you gonna do?
No, but you chose 24.
So you chose 24 of them, make all 50 of them, including for the people who are already there, low.
You can't throw people out.
No, we're not talking about throwing them out, just reduce their rates so that they qualify.
No. So you have to, in order to get into affordable housing, you have to have certain things. It's on our website.
Right, are you telling me that those other 26 people in there don't somehow qualify for that? I mean, that housing authority is for seniors, for people with disabilities.
I don't know the answer.
Well, can we find out the answer to that?
Yeah, we can. But I assume that we don't. But right now, it wouldn't matter if we changed it. It wouldn't matter unless we changed the preference.
Right, but if you did, it would be half
But
of
if you
your
did, you would.
obligation.
Yeah, we'll look into it, great idea.
I don't even. So I was gonna ask the same thing, was it ever considered for the affordable housing for the senior building? They deserve a better place to live. Why not, for those 24 people that are eligible now, what is the criteria for them to be eligible?
So it's the same income limitations that are identified. I don't know off the top of my head. If you go to our website, we have all the income limitations.
No, I don't want to go to the website, I'm asking you.
Hold on, it's
Like you're here making a presentation, you should have the facts.
by room, it's by the number of people that live there, it's like 12 different numbers. And they're like to the penny. I apologize, I don't know the number. And it's
Well, I
just
feel
like-
like you're not prepared. Unfortunately, no, I just want, no, let me just say this, please.
Your opinion, it's unfair.
I've been living here for 22 years, and for the 22 years I've been living here and passing that senior building, okay, I have a 92-year-old father myself. I understand what seniors need, okay, and he lives on his own. And I always felt, wow, why don't we do more for our seniors? We're gonna be a senior someday if we're not right now, right? To me, the identity of a town, the way you take care of the community, is by taking care of the seniors. Okay? So if you have 24 units and they have criteria, even if they had to temporarily be displaced or waiting, not saying displaced, but while you expand the building, it's done all the time. They had extensions onto a building.
So you're talking about something different.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about expanding the senior building. You have 24 units, whatever their criteria is, all right, that could give you, there's 50 units, there's probably 100 people on a waiting list. That might fulfill your needs.
So you're saying we should get rid of the Belmar preference?
Yes.
Okay, so we're all agreed to get rid of the Belmar preference.
But keep our 24, yeah, they wouldn't mind. Where do people come anyway? I mean, if it's Ocean County, if it's Mercer, and what's the other one? Monmouth. Okay, so as long as these people will have a home that are there now, no, let me finish, and that you have a waiting list of people that can go into it. This could fulfill in one building almost half, or all of the housing that we need for affordable housing. And we could do a favor for our seniors. They could be living in a beautiful building, perhaps, if it's done by the right builder, and give them the amenities that they need. That is something that we don't have right now. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you agree with me.
Yes.
Kathy DiOrio, 217 8th Avenue. Does Belmar own the senior building? No. So we cannot tell them what to do. We cannot do that, right?
So that's, you did
Yes.
say that.
Yeah.
Dan?
Yep, thank you. How we doing? Good.
I'm ready, Mike de Blasio, 9th Ave. Can you, I sit on the planning board, so disclosure, I do say that. I was part of the ordinance that came up about the Russo development and when they got rescinded. There was a lot of talk about it and why it was good, bad, planning, testimony, all this stuff. Can you explain what's gonna happen now to planning board? What we can comment on, height of the building, parking, setbacks, number of units, things that we always could comment on. Are they not gonna be discussed?
I mean, those things you
They're
could
gonna be
not.
settled, right?
Yeah, but you understand, you could never comment on setbacks or units. That was already in the zoning of the plan. You didn't get a comment on it, right? You just,
If it was-
when the site plan showed up, you could
variant-
comment on
or
setbacks.
variances, or specific variances that we would say, okay, you know.
Variances,
that's
right,
different.
right. Or a plan amendment, for example.
Correct.
Okay, so for some of these, there will be a plan amendment required. That will have to go through the same process. But the planning board for the plan amendments won't be able to, you'll be able to comment on them, you're gonna have to comply with it, but if you do not do what they're looking for us to do, then we would be in violation of our settlement agreement.
So
Having said that, you do get to do all of the full things you always do for a site plan application. You just don't get, you won't have any variances, right? They'll all be compliant. But you get to do everything that a site plan application sees, just not what, you won't be able to, and you'll see the zoning changes if there are any. And you'll be able to comment on them, but if you fail to pass them, then we would violate, in theory, our settlement agreement.
Right,
So your hands are gonna be tied at some level on the bulk standards, but they're not gonna be tied on the standard site plan application stuff.
So with that, I feel like, why did we go through this lawsuit process rather than coming to the table to the developers, knowing that we were short and we were gonna have a problem? Why not put it in the hands of the town and the residents rather than a lawsuit in the court?
So, I'm not sure how that would work exactly. So what was your point?
Why can't you go to the developer saying, we know we're short, we know that this development's gonna happen, whether it's a
We did.
DJ or a builder's remedy, why can't that come through with this process rather than the DJ you did?
Because the DJ is sort of the choice other than Belgium, those are our two choices. We did talk to the developers that when we first showed up, and they had much bigger projects, they had no interest in doing affordable housing. And they just wanted to do the project, so that Mark Bill project would have been as of right, Because it was, I mean, the Petty project, you fixed the plan, they could have come to you as of right without any affordable housing. Right, so we engage in this process so that they can't just go to the planning board and build that project without affordable housing, which they could have, because you amended the plan to let it happen.
Well, I don't know which one.
Not you, but, I'm sorry, the one you just, the one you just referred to.
Yes.
Right, that plan increased the height, which made the Rapetti project an as-of-right project. An as-of-right project, as you know, means they show up and they get their approval. They could have done that without affordable housing, right?
You say
Right,
that.
so,
I
they could.
agree. No, I'm
So,
not.
so my point is, like, that was where we were, where Rapetti could have wandered down to you, got their approval, you couldn't deny it, because they would have been consistent, and then it could have built it without affordable
Well,
housing. So,
the ordinance was rescinded within the first couple of months of the mayor taking
It
over,
would've-
so that's not.
and they would have sued, and they would have sued, and we would have had a builder's remedy. They wouldn't have taken that on the chin, I assure you.
Joe, I think also what we chose to do results in a plan being approved, where we just sat down and talked to people. We still have to get the plan approved, and so when we file the DJ, and tell me if I'm wrong, Joe,
Yeah.
but when we file the DJ, then they come and join us, just instead of them filing a suit proactively, which the builder's remedy, that's what we've been referring to. But at the end of the day, this process was to get a plan approved, and that's what we're doing. So it's, I think to Mike's point, what he was suggesting wouldn't end up with any kind of plan. We would still have to go through the process.
Yeah.
The DJ is the only way to get a plan approved at the moment.
Yep.
Thank you. Sandy Caputo, Surf Avenue. Please clarify something. That is a federal housing authority. It's federal housing.
It's the Belmar Housing Authority.
It's Belmar
But
Housing.
they do have some, I think it was built with some federal money.
It is not technically, tell me if I'm wrong, it is not technically senior housing, although it has evolved that way and we think of it as senior housing.
I thought it was, but I'll check it out.
You don't,
I thought it was.
that's what has happened there. When we give over control to an outside county, chances are that the people that are then put in there won't all be seniors, and the building will change. Am I right?
We'll double check that. Housing, whether it's only senior, I thought it was.
Affordable doesn't, yeah, you can discriminate with affordable housing.
It's affordable, but it
just
doesn't
based on
have to be
income.
seniors.
It's right, it's not age restricted.
So I think the plan is, yes,
Thank you.
Seniors and seniors
Robert Forte, 114 Daily Belmont. Something that Mike de Blasio mentioned, I just want to get this clear. So any application that comes before the board or whoever comes before, you said the site plan would be an automatic approval?
So, whenever you go for your site plan application, if you're consistent with the underlying zoning, you get what's called an as-of-right application, which means that you have a right to get your approvals. The planning board will impose all kinds of conditions that's been entitled to, but you can't deny a project that complies with all these zoning.
So what you're telling me, if I'm getting this straight, is that basically all the rules that we have in our ordinances, which come from the master plan, the things like setback, front yard setback, rear yard setback, floor area ratio, height, all that will be out the window, depending on what the judge declares?
Well, I would say no, only because we're trying to put these projects, we're trying to get projects that are consistent with the underlying zoning, be it a redevelopment plan, there's a Seaport redevelopment plan that applies, or zoning. So we're trying to negotiate the projects that meet the existing zoning. But in the event that we have one that doesn't, right, and maybe is looking for a different setback or something like that, we would likely have to amend the plan. So
who rules? Does the planning board rule?
So the plan amendment would be typical process. We send the ordinance to the planning board for comment.
Comment.
That's how our redevelopment plan ever gets done. Yeah, so they get the comment on the redevelopment plan, send it back to the governing body, elected officials.
So what you're telling me is the planning board with this application doesn't have the ability to say no.
For you, tomorrow, if you want to do an addition on your house and it's permitted by.
No, I understand that.
Yeah,
I'm talking about this situation.
In this situation, if it's compliant with the zoning, all they can do is what they normally do.
Okay, so the planning board would have control.
Yes.
They get the site plan application, same as everybody else.
Yes.
They have control over that.
Yes. Okay. Second question is, what do you do in townships that have to meet their obligations for affordable housing, but have no land, where all the land is developed? What happens in that situation?
I can't think of one. But, you know, there's no builder's remedy lawsuits, and maybe sometimes they ignore it.
None of them, no one comes to mind that doesn't, I'm not familiar with anything. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, just means I don't know.
Yeah, Dan Lang, 14th Avenue. You were discussing a pilot projects with the developers. How is that going to reflect the schools?
Yeah.
School systems? Does that mean that the schools don't get any more money? Or does that mean that it falls back on the taxpayers, or what?
Yeah, so, well, you have to remember that people that pay the Board of Education taxes and municipal taxes, like, rarely does a homeowner know how much of his dollars are going to the school versus not, so it's the same taxes. So, for example, if we had $1 in pilot municipality, and didn't go to the Board of Ed, but we decided to give that dollar to the Board of Ed, just means our taxes are gonna go up and theirs not gonna go up, right? So to the taxpayer, it's pretty much invisible. If we get more money, I expect, we get more money in and we need services, then the taxpayer, everyone else this year, will do better. But, here, some municipalities choose to share their pilot with their village education. This governing body is interested in pursuing that possibility for the reason you described. So, I think it's, this was in Facebook somehow, but we're engaged in trying to figure out what the Board of Ed's challenges are, so that when these revenues come in, and there will be significant, how do we continue to have a first-rate public school system and meet our obligations to police, fire, and public safety and everyone else. So that's a conversation we're definitely having, because now the loser in this math, by the way, which is going to be important for Belmar, is the county. So the county typically gets, I think, about 15% of your taxes, 15 to 18%. Yeah, you're proving my point. No one pays attention. Who gets more? Okay, good. So 8, I shouldn't say no. There you go. But anyway, so the county gets like 18%, right? So if we do a pilot, we get 95%, which we can choose to share with the Board of Education. So at that level, we're getting 95% of the pie, when even combined with the Board of Ed, we'd only get like 83%. So we're starting off ahead. And then the other thing that may come as a shock, everyone here, which is shocking to me, is your taxes are really low. Your taxes are really low in Belmar. They are.
The timing.
I'm telling you, they are. But I know that is because this way, so one of the ways you do a pilot typically is you take a percentage of the gross revenues of the pilot. So this is going to be important, because we're going to explain this again later. The way a pilot works is it's typically a percentage of the gross revenue. So if they rent the entire building and collect pet fees and parking fees and they make $1 million, the minimum pilot we would get is $100,000, right? And if they make $5 million, we get $150,000. And it's audited every year, it's gross revenues, there's no making house anymore. In Belmar, if you have a 10% pilot, you're close to 90% of what the taxes would be done otherwise. So a 10% pilot is the minimum. And there's what you can do with less, which maybe I may have to do, but in Belmar, the pilot, the difference between a 10% pilot and taxes is only less than 10%. So, at least in the case where we're considering a 10% pilot, we're going to actually get more money to tax industries, the county's going to get some than we would otherwise get if we did real taxes, and at least one of our colleagues.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because we've been reading that there have been people that want to build or anything are getting charged a fee, and I'm just wondering why and how that would, if that would affect anything. In other words, being charged to remodel their homes, build their homes, is that all part of this, or is that just a borough decision?
That's where we're trying to build up our trust fund with cash. And we are going to negotiate some cash with the developers too. So mostly with the developers, we're negotiating the units, for the units, not cash. But we are going to, for some of the obligations, we're going to put cash instead and put it into our affordable housing trust fund. And it's going to be substantially, if we do this right, it'll be substantially bigger than it is today, substantially bigger. In the numbers, that's much.
Yeah, but do you think it's fair? Do you think it's fair that the borough, people that live in the borough, have to take that responsibility to cover that?
Well, they have to.
Those fees.
For the housing obligation program, or whatever one's stating.
Because that's something I just heard that I don't think anybody else knew about.
Yeah, the development ordinance is something that's required.
Can you elaborate on that? We're talking single-family residences, you're gonna have to pay fees if you're.
One question at a time.
Yeah,
I'm done, Chair. I'm done here.
The thing I wanted to, aren't the fees for affordable housing, isn't that by statute?
Yeah.
That the borough is allowed to
It's by state law.
by state law?
I think most
Right.
of the towns now have it.
Right, it's not something that we can just, make up and put in.
Good evening, Tony Almeida, 10th Avenue. A couple different things. First thing is, you keep saying we. Who is reviewing the projects, and what does that consist of? Is our council? It's a group of attorneys, architects, engineers?
Yeah,
Can you
so-
elaborate on that?
So, okay, the we is the mayor and the entire governing body.
Okay.
We meet with them regularly. They have very strong opinions individually and collectively on every issue, highly involved. We have myself, I have a woman, Leslie Lund, you met her before. She's an affordable housing expert. She's a special master in some places. And then another one, partner is Francis McMahon. So the three of us are your legal team. We've engaged a firm called NW Financial, and they have 3 people that are doing financial analysis of each project. And they're sort of the key negotiator with us. So the developer might say, I can only afford 12 affordable units. And our guys will do the math, and we'll change numbers, and they'll say, no, you can still get your cap rate, and you can do 14 units. Or I need a pilot, I need how much, right? So we have financial advice.
All right.
And then we
So-
have, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
the team's bigger.
Yeah.
And then we
So-
also have a planner, who is an expert, and there's a team of 2 people there, who's been sort of taking the bulk of the negotiations on this, trying to get making that adjustment. That's part of her expertise. But she's also in, so we also have a planner, she's a planner. So we have legal, financial, planning, elected officials. April is key. I can't end it, that's me, I think we all agree.
So 15 different individuals, some hired, some retained by the municipality and our council. And how often do you meet to discuss these type of things? Once a month, maybe? Just curious.
There's days when we're talking every day. We don't always meet.
Yep, I
We're
understand.
having conversations, like, and 4 or 5 council meet, closed sessions with council, a lot.
It's important for us to understand as a
It's a
community,
lot.
who are the individuals that are gonna be reviewing these and doing the best effort in negotiations with the projects. The second question would be is, what if we didn't meet the obligation for affordable housing?
So you would have, in our view, you would have 4 builders sharing lawsuits. Each one of those, would look to maximize.
More specific, what time frame do we have to identify and agree with affordable housing?
Round 3 is about to wrap up, right? Round 4 has already been legislated. Whatever-
2026, 2027, 2028?
No, but the deadlines for some of the work on that is October. So in
Pardon me, sir?
October, we gotta start doing the math, figure out how much round 4 is gonna cost. And if we didn't do round 3, that's gonna get,
When is round 4 over?
10 years.
10 years. So is there an opportunity that Belmar within 10 years or 7 years can identify a parcel of land, purchase it, and then meet our
We're
obligations?
not gonna let you wait that long.
No?
We're not gonna let you just wait. You waited down.
Just curious.
And it's a good question. But, I mean, in Fair Share Housing, you and the courts do, they've been waiting for us to do something for 20 years.
How many municipalities are there in the state of New Jersey?
564.
They're waiting for, what, 450 other ones to?
No, today, Brielle has got a building during lawsuit. Many of your neighbors already have settlement agreements.
All right. But in all reality,
I think there's 400 towns that already figured this out.
it could go a decade more with round 4. No, so
The lawsuits
5
are
years?
coming. If we didn't do this, the lawsuits are coming this year,
Oh, I understand the lawsuits are coming.
and with them big projects.
But if you have 10 years.
Round 3 ends, when does round 3 end? I think
Thank
that's the
you.
question.
Yeah.
Well,
No.
it's round 3 end, that's the question. Yeah.
January
June,
2025.
July next year.
Okay.
2025?
Last question is, can you elaborate on why our residents are gonna be forced now to pay into the affordable housing? And what are we looking at from a cost perspective on that?
So you have to pull the ordinance and see the formula. But the state, everyone is required to have these ordinances, and they're all down the state.
And
To find out how many.
but are we talking about knocking a single-family house down, or if you're remodeling a kitchen?
Yeah,
based
or
on-
knocking it.
Based on assess value, or based on the
Knocking it down.
knocking it down, or
We
maybe
should call it a
remodel?
formula, because I don't know what the hard either.
I'll look at the ordinance.
So the one that says I'm not prepared.
Who's next?
So it sounds like I wasn't clear on what the consequences of a building attorney lawsuit. And the consequences, I'll pick on repetitive for a moment. The consequences of that project is it would likely be, I think, about 10 feet taller and probably have 25% more units. That would have been one of the consequences in that particular project. And then multiply that.
So I have a question about, so these affordable units, mostly the ones that you're negotiating? Rentals or to be owned? So only rentals?
Well, one of the projects has market rate condos in it.
Right.
The Mark Bill project.
But no affordable, for purchase? They're only gonna be rentals? And, yeah, is there a reason why?
You know,
I mean, there's like,
well, I mean, generally speaking, it's easier to, you can satisfy a lot more affordable housing families if they're rental than market rate. Just getting the debt deposit, the down payment down, the restrictions that accompany with it, you still have to pay the condo fees. By and large, it's a preferred for both the affordable housing advocates.
okay, I mean, because years ago, like in the 90s, I know that was, your mortgage would be like 2 or 3%. That's all you need to put
Way worse years, the
down.
purchase price is much lower, and it gets deed restricted.
Right, for like 30 years.
Well, for when you sell it, you can only sell it for 30 years.
Right. So, in these ones that are being negotiated now, how many bedrooms? Are these one-bedroom apartments,
So-
2-bedroom, 3-bedroom?
So the rules you have to comply with have specific bedroom counts, so they are 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms for the affordables. The market rates, there's no 3 bedrooms out there. They're mostly 1 or what do you call it, studios or 2s. But the affordables by statute have to be 1, 2s, and 3s. The idea is that you want to be able to attract families that need affordable housing. So that's one of the major goals of affordable housing. So, hence the school check, you know.
So that could be a reason why some of the units in the Belmar Housing Authority wouldn't qualify, if that's, and I don't know what the makeup is.
What came out of this, 2 great ideas, see if there's any way to deed restrict the balance of them, make sure that it's seniors only, I thought it was, but maybe it's not. I don't think there's any ability to really expand the building, that's what the woman was suggesting, they don't have a lot of land, and that building is not in great shape, so, I mean, we've spent a lot of time thinking about how can we make that place better for the seniors that are out there and expand that building, but you just need to look at the outside and see the staff to know that that building has real challenges, and they have limited sources of funds. So one of our ideas would be if you wrestle money out of developers and, you know, figure out a way to make that place a little nicer. That would be a great result because I think it's pretty common knowledge that that building could use some work.
So, and affordable housing, the only restriction is that the applicants have to be eligible according to their income and family size, right? So it's not an age, there's no age restriction that's associated with affordable housing, it's just
some people
if
do
you're
that.
eligible.
It's a possibility. That's not these projects, but there are age-restricted affordable housing units.
Yes.
There's veterans-only affordable housing units.
Yes.
So those things exist, but not in these projects.
Okay. And so I know someone had asked earlier about like, how are we here, or why are we here? And, I mean, we're here doing, right, you're doing this offensive move, as you described it, because the mayor and the council agreed to file a declaratory judgment, or they engaged you to do what Freehold did, right?
Well, really, they engaged us to help them. They said, here's our challenges. Help us find a solution. It was as you saw, multi-tiered, right? Get rid of these pilots, DJ action, fix your ordinance, repeal the other ordinance to bring them to the table. So it was sort of a multi-pronged approach. Sometimes I'm engaged if there's already for that.
Right, no, I understand that, and it's just interesting, this is just my comment, but, they ran on no development and no big projects, but 6 weeks after being in office, or about that, this declaratory judgment got filed. So, I know it's not for you, that's a political issue. I know you're just the attorney filing this suit, but that's my observation, just from like a timeline of how this.
That there was an affordable housing issue at the time I was running, that would have been a major campaign.
But you clearly knew 6 weeks later, you were so well informed to go ahead and file declaratory judgment. You guys are not like small time. You're not.
We don't engage attorneys until we actually take office. But you can rest assured, that would have been another flyer showing that the Doherty and Wasser administrations failed to live up to their constitutional obligations.
You failed.
It's a political flyer.
You failed.
You asked a question and I'm answering it.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your patience. I'll be back. No, I'm sorry.
John Walsh, Avenue B. And this is a political hit job. But I just want to say that affordable housing has this stigma like, oh, who is this trash? A lot of my friends lived in the projects in affordable housing till their family saved up money to buy a house. So, I mean, just because we're all come from different cloth, and that some of us don't, and most of these people were firemen, cops, sanitation men, blue-collar worker, and then they moved on. That's what you do. That's what affordable housing is supposed to do.
I'd just like to remind the group that this is the opportunity to ask questions about affordable housing, the housing authority, redevelopment. I'm just going to add one thing about the housing authority. I just want people to understand, and I think most of you do, is that the municipal council has no authority to force the Belmar Housing Authority to do anything. Right? They have monthly meetings. They have a board of commissioners made of 7 individuals. They have a board attorney. Right? The ball is in their court. They are the only ones who can decide yes or no as to what it is they want to do. So, we have no control over them. They're not being strong-armed to do it. They're free to do whatever they want. We will continue working with them to try to help them as much as we can if they decide they don't want to move forward. That's their decision. We're just offering, we made a proposal. It's laid out in detail in the letter that I wrote to Mr. DeSantis on May 21st. That's public, that letter. You can read it. All right? Again, it's their decision. So I suggest they have a meeting on July 1st. My suggestion is if you want to have some impact on their decision, then you should go to that meeting and make your comments known at that point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Shoot, I should have brought more brownies first.
Leave quietly, we need to continue the meeting. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to petitions.
I actually had a question about one of the resolutions on the agenda before we move on. The one on outdoor dining, what is that?
That's an ordinance.
Oh, that's the ordinance. That applies to all the restaurants on Main Street?
No, we specifically said in the ordinance that it applies only to restaurants on Ocean Avenue.
There was one that
You may not
had
say it
something
in the title,
about
but the
support
ordinance.
redevelopment and BC.
Excuse me?
There was one about putting up a barrier around outdoor dining in the Seaport.
That's the existing ordinance. We're just changing the section that says you can't have picnic tables to say they're allowed on Ocean Avenue.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, petitions, April?
I did not receive any petitions.
Okay, let's move on then to approval of minutes.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 11th meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckles?
Yes.
Councilman Rondonero?
Yes.
Okay, reports of council, Councilwoman Donovan.
It's summertime, which means that we have a lot going on under tourism. A reminder that fireworks will be on the beach on July 6th with a light show in front of Taylor Pavilion at 8:30. Movies on the beach will start on July 10th with Encanto. So come find out about Bruno. Guys, that was
Jerry's doing.
All right, long night. Don't forget that we have the Friday night concerts going on. The Sandcastle contest, which I have not been asked to judge yet.
You're a judge.
Yes. It's on July 17th, followed by, for anyone who's interested, one of my favorite events of the year, which is the Lake Combs Mayor's Bash on July 18th. I encourage you all to go. So all fun things from tourism. Now some more serious things. Given the recent consecutive days of hot, dry weather, New Jersey American Water is asking that customers in Monmouth and Ocean counties take steps to conserve water now, which will also help you save money on your water bills. In other news, we are in the midst of an algae bloom at Silver Lake. The county has signed up there. Right now, the major restriction is just please don't bathe in the lake or consume any fish in it, which frankly I hope you were not doing anyway. This comes back to the work we were working on in Silver Lake with the Environmental Commission and the Silver Lake team. There are other small things you can do to help prevent algae blooms. One of the big ones is just if you have any type of fertilizers being down, check to see if there's phosphorus in this fertilizer, and if you can switch, please do. Technically, there are already legal restrictions on phosphorus that are wildly ignored, but that's something you can do. For Harbor Commission, we continue to look for funding to fix the pilings down there, but we did vote to install a few benches down in the marina, so hopefully we will get to that and enjoy that. And finally, Belmar Women's Club is pleased to announce that come September 4th, in addition to the regularly scheduled meetings, we will be holding meetings open to to new members and current members at 6 p.m. in the Belmar Public Library. So you can choose to go to the ones during the day or to the one in the evening. They are complimentary. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kenny.
Thank you, Mayor. Recreation Junior Guard starts this Monday, so if you see a bunch of kids on 6th Avenue, I believe Nicolette got something like 170 kids, which is a fabulous turnout for our Junior Guards. Fall soccer signups are happening now. The Luckinville Pops Band comes back to Taylor Pavilion every Monday starting this coming Monday, and I think the last Monday in August is when they're finished. On EDA, one of the things came to our attention was that there's not an automatic door at the post office, which there should be for handicapped and ADA individuals. Unfortunately, that is a federal building, so we are trying to reach out to the post office to see if there's some way that we can work with getting an automatic door there. EDA is also doing their presentation at the summer with summer campers and with recreation summer camp to do a presentation on being sensitive to kids with special needs and anti-bullying, and that will be July 12th, Friday. And then Shade Tree Commission, there's quite a few trees, just again with the hot weather, that are really not doing very well around town. So we've identified some volunteers on the Shade Tree Commission to go around with gator bags and walk, and they've decided on a watering schedule. So if you see people around town watering the trees, they're doing a good thing there. George Williams, one of our members, also met with the mayor to discuss issues about a 5-year plan for the Shade Tree Commission. It was a very good meeting, it went well, and we're gonna hopefully have some next steps for improving our 2025 budget for the Shade Tree Commission. And by the end of the year, right, by December, I believe. Members of the Shade Tree Commission are also trying to work with the planning board on applications to see what trees actually really need to be removed when you're taking down a house or reconstructing a home or clearing your lot. So hopefully we'll have some more input with that so they don't just mow down all the trees on the property. So we're looking forward to that. We're also looking for recruiting new members. The mayor has mentioned that he may have some names, so we're hoping to find some new potential members for Shade Tree Commission. And that is all.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rondinero?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to first thank those who are here with concerns or questions regarding the borough proposal to include the BHA in its affordable housing plan. It's important for our residents to know that the proposal that for the BHA to be included is in the housing plan is that just a proposal. Like the mayor said, it's not the council's decision, we are okay if they do not proceed with this option. We'll understand and we'll support them. And I think that's something that I know the mayor and I have spoken on, and I think we can all agree. I do understand changing the priority from Belmar to regional would affect future tenants. It's their building, so it's not ours, knowing that they have millions in repair work, though, needing to be done. I thought it was fair to offer this option. It's an option. I think it's very unfortunate that they haven't been able to or won't be able to use funds from the Affordable Trust Fund if they're not included. I do have to find out about why it's only 24 units and not 50 that would be considered. I was told that that was a credit issue, not a unit issue. It wasn't 24 units, it was 24 credits. And so I'd want to get some clarity on that. I also want to fact check some things that I've read. And one is that this is not Section 8 housing. Section 8 housing is a voucher program for very low income individuals and families that includes a state waiting list and lottery. Household income is under $42,000 for that. And if you are concerned about Section 8 housing in the BHA, I stress that you speak to the commissioners. I know that Commissioner McCracken has proposed RAD, which is a rental assistance demonstration, which is a HUD program to address improving living conditions in public housing, but it turns them into Section 8 subsidies. And that may affect that local preference even more. I looked on nj.com or .gov, and then the DAC for the specified area for local preference for Section 8 is all of New Jersey, all of the state. So I think it is important that we are involved if we do want to advocate for our seniors, if we do want to make sure that they get their preference in their building. This is happening on other levels too, so please just get involved. Know that we care about the building and our seniors in that building. Belmar Public Library, and I'll get back to the Housing Authority. So we had a strategic plan meeting for the library last Thursday, and we discussed the need for an additional bathroom for staff specifically, but an additional bathroom nonetheless that's ADA compliant. And right now the library only has one bathroom that is not. So I mentioned this to Business Administrator Kevin Kane and the Library Director David Hallman, as the strategic committee would like the library board to know this request prior to the next library board meeting so that they can discuss it further. Juneteenth celebration concert with the Luckinville Orchestra and professional Ronald Tyson was a success. Shout out to our Belmar library employee Bruce Fay on creating the mural artwork for Juneteenth. So much talent at the library, so thank you, Bruce. Before I forget, I've gotten a lot of compliments on the islands around town, the floral arrangements. They look beautiful, and I've been told as well that DPW has helped a lot with all of the wind that we've gotten. There's been a lot of branches and things falling down that has needed the attention, so you're getting kudos, so thank you so much. Just want to remind everyone that, please listen to your lifeguards and water safety, we thank our first responders for all of their help this summer as it gets busy in Belmar. This Saturday, library has author time with Belmar's own Lucille Madalena at 11 a.m. Discussing her book, Moving On By. The Belmar Housing Authority will have its next meeting July 1st at 5:15. So I would encourage those who came today to support the BHA and the seniors to please come. They're public. Come to the meeting. Belmar, 2 weeks ago, myself and other volunteers helped paint the outside furniture there, railings, and painted the front retaining wall on 8th Avenue. It looks really nice. I'd like to thank Commissioner Ellen Rainey, Johanna Roper Robinson, John and Pat John and Pat Hutchinson, Josiah Robinson, and Sharon Russell Fowler for volunteering in this effort. I spoke to Paul DeSantis, and he informed me that the front of the building will be getting rhododendrons by the wall to spruce up the look. The soil was tested, and unfortunately, it's poor, so it will work well for rhododendrons, we are told. The main elevator now has a beautiful mural in it, and it is back in working order. And I'm hoping I'll have some more information on the facades for the next meeting. And lastly, Monday, July 8th is the lifeguard tournament, 6 p.m. at 10th Avenue Beach. Thanks.
Thank you. There is one thing I forgot to mention before, specifically on the Housing Authority. I mentioned that there were 7 commissioners, and I'd just like to tell you who they are. They might be your neighbors, I don't want to know. But they are Mary Lynch, Lisa Orchard, Carolyn Chirac, Ellen Ramey, Michael Casserly, Jim McCracken, and Maria Massano. All those individuals have pretty much 5-year appointments. I've only made 1 reappointment, and that was Carolyn Chirac, and that was in 2023. So they have been on the board for a while. So those are your commissioners for your Belmar Housing Authority. One other thing that has nothing to do with the Housing Authority, as I mentioned before about putting debris in the street, I'm also going to ask if you hire a landscaper and they blow your property. You know, I walk my dog and I just crack up when I see them, 2 people blowing pieces of grass in the street, and they just keep blowing it so that it kind of just like keeps blowing, and they actually blow the grass down too. So what happens is all this dirt gets into the street, along the curb, or whatever. If you can, ask them to keep the blowing on your property, because it just gets to be ridiculous, because everybody else's property now has this layer of dust and this grass that supposedly, I don't know where it's supposed to go, but it just keeps blowing in the street somewhere. You know, and if you have, you know, the guy down the street's doing it, and the other one's doing it, you know, and it's like, it doesn't go away, it goes someplace. And it usually goes in the curb, and again, if it rains, those are the things that are gonna, you know, impact the sewer system. So please just, and aside from the fact of the noise, because that's a discussion for another day. But just, if you can, remember, ask them to do that. I have nothing else, so let's move on to the 2024 budget amendment hearing. Okay.
Okay, so at the last meeting, we adopted a resolution to amend the 2024 budget, so this is the public hearing on that amendment. If anyone would like to speak, please step forward, state your name and address. Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilman Kinney?
Yes.
Member Fesco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondero?
Yes.
Did you want to say anything? Did you want Maureen to comment on it at all?
I don't think we need it. It was just a.
You just need another resolution.
Okay. So next we have resolution adopting the 2024 budget and as amended. Can we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckfasco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondero?
Yes.
So now we're on to public session regarding the resolutions listed on the consent agenda. Please remember to state your name and address if you're going to speak. Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public session?
Eugene Greenberg, 4th Avenue. Resolution 2024-138. This is a liquor license for the Irish Curse, trading as 10th Avenue Burrito. I'm sorry. That's okay. Apparently, everybody who turns off when you come down over the High Bridge, 135 heading south into Belmar, and the first place that you can turn into Belmar is
is 8th Avenue there by the Waterview Pavilion. And you proceed east and you go over the railroad, you go past the, I guess I'll call it the, what would be Railroad Avenue East. I think the maps now refer to it as Belmar Plaza. Then you come up to 10th Avenue, Burrito, and boy, I'm trying to figure out, I thought we had a sidewalk dining permit or something that was required for this outfit to operate there. I also checked a couple months back, the Department of Transportation has a proposed alternative to change the pedestrian crossing of 8th Avenue there. Currently, the pedestrian crossing is directly in front of the the Belmar Housing Authority, and is going to be moved. However, I took a look at NJDOT's drawing, and it appears that we have a creeping building that has creeped into 8th Avenue, which is State Highway 71. I have to believe their mapping is more accurate than anything that we have here in Belmar. And now we have a place that serves alcohol that is now in the public right-of-way. And I don't think it complies with our sidewalk dining permit requirements. There's supposed to be a minimum of 4 feet for pedestrian passage. Now, it's very important that that there is pedestrian right-of-way on 8th Avenue, especially on the south side of 8th Avenue, because when you get up to Route 35 to cross, 6 lanes of traffic to go to the marina, you have to go on the south side of 8th Avenue. I guess what I would like to see, and I don't know whether the engineer has left, but can we please take a look at that? It appears to me, and this is NJDOT's map, that that building has crept into State Highway right-of-way. And I'm not sure what's mapped. I went past there quickly the other day, but it appears that there seems to be, I guess, a section of chain link fence with liquor signs posted alongside of it.
We'll definitely have Mr. Orris, our engineer, look into that and see what he sees in terms of and maybe I'll have the borough attorney also take a look at their dining permit, and we'll see if they're in compliance. If they're not, I will let them know. Okay. Yeah, we'll have the engineer. He's the best person to really look at the maps and so on.
Yeah, and like I said, the map that I reviewed was the one that was put on the borough website.
The preferred alternative.
Right.
For the pedestrian crossing. And it appears to me, according to the map,
the pedestrian crossing is going to be moved easterly to about mid-block.
Right.
And we haven't seen any activity on that.
Well, you're not going to see activity on that. We actually, Maria Montanaro, Councilman, followed up on that, and this is something that I have on my to-do list to follow up. We tried to find out when that was going out. Remember, it was, I think, the first month that I became mayor, I got the letter from DOT that said, congratulations, we're going to move the crosswalk, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And they had the picture, and they have all the stuff there. And we keep asking them, when is this going to happen? When is this? Councilman Montanaro took it upon herself to ask, what was the date? They said that it was done?
2027 was
Sometime in
anticipated.
2027.
And that it was still in the design phase.
So we need to push them on that.
I have several more phone calls and emails into them as well.
Yeah, I guess that'll come about the same time as we get a new Main Street bridge.
Exactly. Exactly. We'll just tie up the traffic completely at that point.
I mentioned that they were here already, and while they were here, can you look at this?
Didn't go over.
In any case, the building seems to have creeped into the roadway.
We will definitely look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay.
All right, can I have a motion to close the public session?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor? Can I have a motion to adopt the resolutions as listed on the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Next, we have second reading and public hearing on ordinance 2024-10. This is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 40 or development regulations pertaining to outdoor dining. This is open for public comment if anyone would like to speak on it. Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-10?
Motion.
Second.
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
And last item is second reading and public hearing on ordinance 2024-14. This is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 44, Stormwater Management. This is open for public hearing if anyone would like to comment on the ordinance. None. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
Who's that?
Second.
And can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-14?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Okay, and now we're on to public session. If anyone is going to comment at the microphone, please remember to state your name and address.
Anita Buckley, First Avenue. The Board of Trustees of the Belmar Library recently increased the number of hours, opening earlier and staying later on Fridays. New Jersey, as we know, as we've experienced the last 3 days, is heating up faster than any state in the Northeast. So that makes public libraries cooling centers, which they should be. So more people are coming into the library and they're going to use the bathroom. Belmar is a vacation destination. People travel here by train all day long. Most of the stores in town have no public bathroom signs. So where's everybody going to go? The public library, which is fine. It's a public building. They should. Homelessness and mental illness are real things. Belmar Public Library has a number of people under this description, and they need bathroom facilities. All this said, it leads to unfair workplace practices for the Belmar Public Library staff. All other municipal buildings have a staff bathroom. We should afford the staff a clean and private bathroom for their safety. Our librarians are devoted, hardworking individuals who have been with us for years. It seems like this should be a top priority. There's no Board of Trustees meeting for July and August, so I'm here asking the Mayor of Council to consider, as owners of the building, to expedite this issue. With the increased number of hours, I think it's a very important issue. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Hi, Sarah Tantillo, 505 13th Avenue. I'm here to speak about our toothless animal house policy. I live, as I said, 505 13th Avenue. About 3 years ago now, a guy bought a house across the street from me, actually, 2 properties totaling 4 houses. He proceeded, starting in May of 2021, to rent those out to 20+ individuals. Now, this is not in any way a criticism of the police department. I want to be really clear about that because the police have been very responsive. But it's more a concern about the animal house policy itself, which, according to the website, reads that property is only designated an animal house after administrative law hearing has been held, and the hearing officer has found that in any 24-month period, 2 complaints on separate occasions, blah, 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 blah. The way I read that is we have to wait 2 years from somebody coming in before there's a hearing. So we actually waited the 2 years and called the police countless times. myself and my neighbors, dozens and dozens of times in the first year, in the second year, finally in the third year. Now we're into the third year and they have been designated an animal house. Just so you know, according to the website, dated as of May 6th on the website, there are 92 houses in this town designated as animal houses. 92. 17, according to my count, 17 of the 92 are owned by LLCs, whatever that means. I mean, I know what an LLC is, but in terms of, I have one, but in terms of the, the sense of ownership and home ownership, et cetera, there is a question there about are groups of people buying up houses and renting them out to groups of basically like college-age kids who do not have a large degree of respect, evidently, for the neighbors. It says that once they're designated as an animal house, in 2004, the borough began taking steps to repress further animal house violations by hiring and posting Monmouth County Sheriff's officers outside the animal house properties on weekends and evenings. And the cost of the sheriff's officers can be as much as $1,000 per weekend. With 92 designated animal houses, that is not happening, right? It couldn't possibly happen. It's definitely not happening. So we are still forced to call every single weekend when these people are making lots and lots and lots of noise into the wee hours of the morning. I had to call a few weeks ago at 2:30 in the morning, woken out of a sound sleep. And it was lucky that I did, because then an ambulance had to come. Because somebody had fallen in some kind of way on the property that warranted going to the hospital. These kids are getting really wasted and yelling and screaming at all hours of the night. And I know I'm not the only person who feels this way. I'm speaking for my neighbors as well. So I just want to bring it to your attention that and it says that the landlord is required to post a bond up to $5,000. If you look at the list, the range in bonds posted is $1,000 to $5,000, right? But if the county sheriff's office is not coming, the bond is not being used for any purpose, I just feel as though the penalty to the landlords is not strong enough. And the renters may be getting a ticket, they may be getting a summons, but it's happening over and over and over, and the landlords, don't feel pressed to do anything about it. They're collecting the rents, and we're dealing with this, Tuesday nights a lot because of, whatever that beat the clock thing. Tuesday nights are really bad, and obviously the weekends. And it's not because the cops aren't coming out, they come when we call. But why should we have to call every single weekend, every single Tuesday night, and then, and there doesn't seem to be a real penalty. So I just want to see if we could do something about that, because it doesn't feel like the animal house designation really means anything, so.
I think we'll follow up with the chief, and perhaps Mr. McGill need to take a look at the ordinance and take a look at how it's actually done.
What is the address?
504 13th Avenue?
I thought after they got, I don't know, if it was 3 or 4 tickets, that they were like automatically kicked out of town or something.
No,
Is
I
that
think,
not-
no.
I'm saying I'm wrong, but you know what I mean? Like, I thought that the landlords
No, how it works
were like
is
evicted.
you have to, it's state statute, so I don't think we have any ability to really amend what the regulations are, but you have to be a summer rental, and you have to have 2 substantiated violations within a 2-month period.
2 months.
12-month period. So that could happen in one summer, it could happen over 2 summers, it depends on the house. So once you have those 2, then you come before the hearing officer for a hearing, and that's the time they are deemed an animal house and they post the bond, and that's kept for 4 years. And anytime in that 4-year period, if the property continues to be a summer rental and they get 1 violation, they come back for another hearing, and that's when we increase the bond, and we often take money out of the bond to cover the borough's expenses from start to finish of that whole summons from prosecution and the police officer writing the ticket, my time sending the owner a letter and things like that. So that's,
The website actually says 24-month period, so maybe that is incorrect. You said 12 months? In any case, it definitely took 2 years, and there were numerous violations, there were numerous summonses within that 2-year period.
So typically, if there's multiple, and it goes to a hearing, the hearing officer might request a higher bond from them than they would someone that is a first-time offense and they only had the minimum 2 tickets. We might ask for a $1,500 bond, but if they have 5 or 6 tickets, they might ask for a $2,500 bond. So that's up to the hearing officer. But then there is this, we did add a stipulation that the summer rentals have to get a mercantile license. So there is a point when they reach the $5,000 maximum bond amount that if they're a continuous problem, we could revoke their summer rental license, but that's only when they reach the maximum.
Right, so I feel your frustration, because I feel like what they're doing, these landlords, is just building that amount of money into the rent, right? So like, assuming they're gonna get some kind of massive violation, and then they just eat it because it covers their cost, right? So how do we make the bonds bigger? Like, is that a possibility? Like, who do we, it has to like matter.
Right, it doesn't matter. $5,000 is nothing to these people when they're getting probably,
20 kids paying,
Yeah.
whatever.
But as April said, it is controlled by statute, so the statute's gonna set
State.
maximum, so I'll take a look at that and see if there's anything. I doubt that we're anything less than the maximum as far as penalties are concerned.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's frustrating.
Mark Preston, 13th Ave. Yeah, I agree, this is one I came up for, but I agree about this whole animal house, that it's ineffective. The landlords, they do pass on the cost, they'll charge it back to the renters, and the renters are covered by having a cake party the next weekend to pay for it. So, yeah, we need some more teeth into that. But last year I came up because I asked if there was an ordinance about cars parking on the street indefinitely, and if not, could we have an ordinance, even if it's like as long as a month or something, because there's a car on our block, it was there a year ago when I complained, and it was there for 2 years then, so now it's in the same spot for 3 years. There's grass growing under it, the car's falling apart. It's on 13th Avenue, near Ocean. Maybe, I doubt, and I think the part of the response was, well, if it's registered, we can't do anything. But I kind of doubt if it's registered at this point.
Does it have a license plate? Does it have a license on it?
It has a license plate.
Okay.
Whether it's registered,
Do you know who the owner is, or?
I can only say that the owner, the house that it's parked in front of, is not the owner. So that's pretty rude too.
I would suggest you know, send us in the license plate, we'll take a look at it. I don't know if we have an ordinance about abandoned vehicles. It sounds like to me it's been abandoned. I don't know
think
if we
there's
have.
a state statute on that.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the state statute.
There should be something.
Send us in the
They
plate.
shouldn't be there for an extended period of time. We could pass an ordinance perhaps, or if there's something in the state, maybe we need to enforce it. But, yeah, I'll send it to her.
Yeah, you can either send it to me or April, and we'll get it to the police, and George can look into.
Thank you.
It's like an abandoned vehicle.
Mayor, can I go back to the last comment about the animal house? I was
Yes.
just looking it up, and the 504 and 13th just became an animal house last year, so they're at the minimum bond of $1,000, and they did get 1 summons this year. So as long as that doesn't get dismissed in the court, they'll be coming back for another hearing to increase that bond.
Any other?
And how many does it take to revoke their summer?
They have to be at the maximum bond of $5,000.
And would the next time they are in court, would that just bump it up another 1,000, or is there a chance that?
It's up to the hearing officer. Usually it's based on a recommendation from the police department and code enforcement. Will make a recommendation to the hearing officer.
In this court.
Yes. Well, it's not the municipal court, it's separate.
Oh, it's a separate court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other Comments? After.
Kyle Rosatello, 14th Avenue, Belmar. Interesting meetings tonight. First, I'd like to say thank you to April for contacting me in reference to the address that she asked about on 13th Avenue and Route 71 about the bushes blocking the northbound traffic. They're trimmed, so now the only thing you have to do is now you stop in the crosswalk instead of stopping in the shoulder of the road. So thank you for doing that, number one. And the other thank you is that April also asked me about the address of 16th Avenue and L Street, that big old tree that was blocking the view when you got to 16th Avenue. If you looked west, you couldn't even see traffic coming, you couldn't see people walking down the street, you couldn't see people on bicycles, and a lot of close calls came up. And that tree is now gone. So thank you for getting that taken care of.
Thank our code enforcement inspectors for those.
Well, you're the one that got the ball rolling. Also, I'd like to thank the young lady that drives the sweeper. About a week and a half ago, we had one of the neighbors had put something out to the curb. It was all tagged and everything. The garbage man picked this big piece up, threw it in the back of the garbage truck, and brought their little thing down that brings the trash in, and the thing exploded. Glass was everywhere. They attempted to clean it up, but they made more of a mess than anything else. So I called the borough yard, there was no answer, and I know you guys are busy. So I said, oh, they're on the road, no problem. I mentioned it to one of the borough workers and said, oh, when you get a chance, because the next day was a Thursday, and that was the day our street was gonna be cleaned. I said, when you get a chance, could you ask, is it Shannon? Could you ask Shannon if she could really, really check out our area with the glass? There was glass against the side of my husband's vehicle. He went out there, tried sweeping some of it. We tried cleaning it up. Otherwise, everybody that drove down that street was gonna get a flat. So the next morning, Shannon shows up to clean our street. She went from K Street up 3 to 4 length houses, both sides of the street, in the middle of the street. She was out there for a while cleaning up. She even looked out the window and checked. You could see she was looking to make sure there was no glass. Is there any way that this girl can be rewarded or something? Not only does she just do a good job, she went out of her way to really make sure this was taken care of. And that's something I think that, she needs to be commended for, and she does a great job. She really does a great job. When it comes to, this is just something I had seen, as a matter of fact, today. I was around the lake that's between Avon and Bradley Beach, and they have these lines that go from their walkway to the lake, and there are a whole lot of them, from Main Street, 3/4 of the way to the ocean, on the lake. And there's all silver banners hanging all over it, like little, I'm gonna say pinwheels. There's no problems with any of those ducks or swans or anything going up on the land. So is that something we could take a look at and maybe kind of borrow that idea?
We can. I've seen some people in Belmar who've had them, and I've also seen geese walk right through them. So it's just a matter of, yes, I think we can do that.
I mean, this was a lot.
I have no independent way of knowing if they work, but it's definitely worth it.
If you could just ride by there and take a look, just to check it out, to see, and it's on the Avon side, and I didn't see it on the Bradley Beach side, but I saw it on the Avon side. And I just thought I'd mention it, and it seems like there were no ducks, no geese, nothing at that end. There was a few swans that were at the other end.
No people either.
No people either.
One of the things about Avon, and it's a model for part of what we want to do here, is that they've been building out that living shoreline. If you look, and it has those like winding paths to the lake, and those are specifically designed to deter geese and discourage them from landing there.
Right.
They've been doing a great job, and they've gotten most of that funded by grants and things like that. So we've talked quite a bit to people over at Avon to get their tips and yeah,
That's good.
absolutely.
And like I said, if there's something that could be done for Shannon, because she really, really went out of her way and did an exceptional job that day.
I will let her know.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
527 8th Avenue, Belmar. And you guys are looking good, I tell you. I just wanted to let you know, I think you did a fantastic job on the bathrooms, the new bathrooms at the Taylor Pavilion. Really nice quality work. And I wonder, are you hearing the heat from the people that lost their bathroom on the boardwalk at 3rd Avenue? A lot of dissatisfied. I'm a gatekeeper. They talk. We represent the town, so we hear a lot about how inconvenient that is. Women with children. I think on the weekend, or it was maybe Tuesday, that there was a line going out to the street for the ladies' room, which is, that's terrible. And this, also, some guys are trying to ride their bikes to get down to the bathroom from the gates. One guy just had an accident today where the car didn't hit him or something, but he fell off the bike. Some people just can't walk that far, and it's hurting them. So I just didn't know how much of that you heard, but I don't like to put in a special request to see what you can do about 3rd Avenue. It's got to be a nicer looking thing that the people across the street would like. I mean, we've had it for 20 years, so they must have gotten used to the one bathroom. So with this one, I guess it has to be in the street, can't be on sand, whatever it is. We still need a bathroom there.
The problem we face is that when extensive, Jim Morris, our engineer, did extensive research on the bathrooms on the beach, because there was a possibility that we could, if we could identify previous structures that were on the beach, it was likely that the DEP would at some point permit us to keep the bathrooms there, turning them into permanent bathrooms. He did extensive research. Every bathroom from 19th to 5th had been there before. The only bathroom that had never had a prior structure was the one at 3rd Avenue. So, when we got to the point where we knew we were going to build the bathroom in 5th Avenue, that's the reason why we discontinued that one. I've had about 2 or 3 complaints in terms of letters, and I think what had happened is people got so used to going to 3rd because it's the least busy beach, as we all know if you've been in Belmar. It's the place where the last car spots are, and I think through the years people got so used to going there that now it's a stress to not have the bathroom there. I suggested to people that they try moving down the beach a little bit. 6th Avenue is not a very heavily used beach, even on a busy day. I know 5th is, I know 4th is. So I think that the answer is for the people who are, who have an issue, just put yourself closer to the existing bathrooms. We have more bathrooms on our beach than any other town near us. And, it's just a common sense to, if I know that I need to use the toilet facilities, and I know, I'm not going to park my stuff down on 2nd Avenue and walk up to 3rd. So that's the reason why the 3rd Avenue bathroom is gone. Ultimately, the town will need to get rid of those temporary bathrooms and either put permanent bathrooms or make those temporary ones permanent. So that's the explanation why the 3rd Avenue one is no longer there. Because in fact, I think it was, I don't want to give a date, I think it was 1980 or so.
1973.
Yeah, 1973. Historically, there was never a bathroom. The only other bathrooms had either pavilions or just bathroom facilities, like associated with like the old miniature golf was up on 16th. There was a little place concession there, and on the side of the concession there were bathrooms. So The thing was that, you know, in good faith, dealing with the DEP, in our attempt to say, you know, yes, we are gonna rectify this problem, we started with Third Avenue bathroom. And I think, so far, I think it's working out pretty well. It's just a matter of change. People don't like change, and I think it's.
Take it from a
will
senior.
come. It will come.
It's a
No,
lot
I'm there,
more.
I'm a senior also, so.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Didn't notice.
Oh, yes.
When the EPA makes you do something like they did here, and just, I mean, I think it was terrible. When they make an adjustment, or they tell you you have to do something, do they give you the money to do it?
No.
I thought wild guess, probably not, but at least they should be doing something, because they're seniors. And I thought seniors had some sort of respect in New Jersey, and I think there are a lot of seniors that, you know, you can say, well, move your blanket, I've heard that. No big deal, just move your blanket. Well, for a senior, that is a problem. It's more difficult. So, having said that, I appreciate it. You get it in the plans to maybe get something there.
I don't think
as
so.
a gift.
I know Councilwoman Rondinero is gonna say something that is totally opposite of what I'm saying.
You got it, Maria.
I can tell you that there will be no bathroom on Third Avenue.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Fair enough. By the way, I appreciated the presentation by this gentleman. It was helpful. It's a new situation that I was very concerned about, because I don't know if the seniors themselves at the senior building are hearing enough about what's going on. It's got to be pretty scary for them. So I think you said there's a meeting coming up.
Yes, July 1st is a
July
meeting,
1st.
And they should all take advantage. We actually made a presentation in the June meeting, Councilwoman Rondinaro and I, to explain the letter that it had written. And there were seniors there from the building, and so they've already, you know, once we're at the meeting, already heard about it. But yes, July 1st is the next meeting, and as I said earlier, they should go.
Good. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, guys, take it easy.
Mayor, can I take a moment to make my plea?
Oh, sure, you got 3 minutes.
All right.
3 minute rule for council people.
Thank you. It won't take me 3 minutes. I would request that we revisit the need for the Third Avenue bathrooms, and I understand the reason why we weren't able to do it, and I did speak to our engineer as well. The issue is, if anything was before, it was grandfathered in, if it was there before 1973. Other comments were made as to whether things were there before the 1992 storm. There was actually a sewer pipe, because they had started a pavilion, or they had plans for a pavilion and a bathroom on Third. There was a sewer pipe that is there currently that hasn't been used. Yes, there wasn't one made, but I think that there is a good, you know, that research brings us to a good reason to go back to DEP and plead our case on this. Additionally, if we don't get that approval, I think that we should consider renting bathroom trailers, which I know is less expensive, and maybe considering it on the street side of the boardwalk. Thank you.
I agree with Maria. I think that's a great idea. We need something on Third.
I was gonna say, it's also not just seniors.
Yeah.
Not only that, I mean, women have different bathroom needs. I have young kids, they have to go to the bathroom. The alternative that is often thrown around to using the bathroom, I shall not repeat. But the other thing is too, you can't always just move. We have people with lockers. You can't just, you know, and there's a waiting list, it's hard to move your locker. If there isn't parking and you have kids walking several blocks with all of the stuff, there's so much stuff. Is difficult too. Yes, other towns don't have as many bathrooms. Spring Lake has the 2 pavilions and that's it. But they don't get the amount of visitors that we get. So I think it's important to revisit. I think Belmar is a family-friendly and a visitor-friendly town, and we should maintain that by providing those facilities however we can.
And there aren't terrible porta potty options, right? I mean,
There's some
we've been to
lovely
like the
ones.
Royal Flush. I mean, we've all seen some really nice, decent porta potty options, so I feel like we should really consider that as well.
No comment.
Claire Hamer, 18th and B. While we're on the topics of bathrooms, maybe we can get rid of the kindergarten toilets that we have out in the restrooms out here? Just a thought. I asked that the prior administration, and then there was some reason that we couldn't, or they were acceptable. But I'm sorry, they are right down.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, they're kindergarten toilets. That's how I refer to them, please. But what I was coming up for was safety, all right? I'm on the corner of 18th and B, and we're used to everybody flying up 18th for an emergency. Absolutely, I cringe and hope nobody's coming across B when they're flying through 18th. But at the same time, the other day, and I don't know what paths the fire engines take, but they were coming down B, turning onto 18th. And I was like, yo. And that's fine if there's really no cars parked over the line, and I know the lines don't mean anything, and I know the officers have discretion, but when a car is like, half of the car is over the line on a weekend, if that engine has to come and get around, I don't want the cars pushed onto my lawn, to be honest with you. But in all seriousness, if the discretion could be considered more on the corners, like if they're over the line, give them a ticket. I don't need them towed unless that's up to you guys, but at least give them the ticket, because I questioned it and it was the officer's discretion. And I understand and appreciate that and respect that, but I got a lot of concern with those fire engines if they have to come around that corner and try to get to someone quickly. So, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seems like there are any other questions?
Mine's a good one.
Who wants to remind the class about the home?
Barry Lubin on 15th. I've only been here a few years, and I fully agree with we're a wonderful town, you know that. Just a little levity with that. I went up to get my grandson on Friday. It was 102 coming down the Parkway. When I rounded on 16th on Ocean, what do you think it was? 80. On Sunday, on my little part-time job as a gate checker, I bought myself a thermometer because I swear it was 65 sitting on it.
We don't charge for that air conditioning.
I know that.
Okay.
That's the cool thing.
Any other comments? Hurry up. I'm just kidding.
Sharon Russell Fowler, 11th Avenue. I walk my dog every night, and I know one of the streets that's really, really scary is 13th at the E Street, because it's a one-way. And I can't tell you how many times I've stopped people from going the opposite direction. So I don't know I know some towns have the stop signs with the lights on them that kind of blink, reminding you don't, stop, stop, stop. So I don't know if that's one of the streets that maybe could be considered, but seriously, it's a dark street to begin with, so as they start going the wrong way, they really have nowhere else to go. And I'm out in the street with my dog going, no, stop. So, just a thought. Thank you.
We'll take a look at that. 13th and E, you said?
13th, yes, 13th and E.
Okay. Any other?
I'm on 10th and C, and everybody goes the wrong way down my street too, every day.
At night, it's really scary.
I actually went the wrong way on the street right now. I must have had a brain something. I was on turning down the C Street. I'm like, what am I doing? On the wrong street. That was a long time ago. If there are no other
Can I
comments?
have a motion to close the public session and adjourn the meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.